Okay, I'll go ahead and make some preliminary comments here. Christine Johnston has been coordinating Excel's work on the upper South Arkansas and Fouzes Creek for a while, based around the decommissioning of the two power plants there. I've been attending most of those meetings. They've been very informative, but I just felt that more of the membership, especially the board, should be up to speed on where they are. I know I have some ideas for input or comments, and I would hope everyone else does as well. I only obligated Christine to about 20 minutes. The group is big here. I don't think I have met Ashley yet, but that's all right. Everybody can speak up as they see fit, but mostly I was hoping for a visual presentation, show that overall site map, and then hopefully some of the ideas from HDR Engineering that are doing actual reconstruction. But Christine, you want to take it away for now?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Keith. And thank you for the invitation. We really appreciate being able to come and talk to you today about this project that we're doing on South Clear Creek and on Fouzes Creek. Keith did a great job of introducing it here. And I'm going to let Ashley, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we can jump into the presentation here?
Sure, happy to do that. Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Valdez, and I'm the area manager for Xcel Energy for Southern Colorado. And my primary responsibilities are community and local government affairs. And Chaffee County is one of my areas, as well as the San Luis Valley, and I'm officed out of Pueblo. We thought it'd be great to talk with you tonight about the project, certainly to get your input, but just to set the table a little bit for you all. Xcel Energy has announced in 2018 that we have a carbon-free vision for our electricity by 2050. And part of the work for doing that is looking at the current plants that we have, some of our coal plants and the other, and looking at it to see if there's some ways that we can bring on clean energy while by transitioning away from fossil fuels. And in that, work, one of the things that we've looked at too is how efficiently are we using plants, how effective are we with cost and that type of thing. So in looking at the plant for Salida, the hydro plant, we made the decision to go ahead and take those offline. And so the work that we're doing has to do with that. Christine, as you all probably know, is our environmental service analyst, and she does a great job for us. I don't know what I'd do without her work. And then also with us from HDR is Brian Brown, and then also Dan March. And so I didn't have a real long introduction. I do want to apologize in advance. I have a 6:30 appointment and it is not on Zoom. So I will have to leave just a few minutes early, but I leave you in the absolute capable hands of Christine and the team. And with that, I will turn it over to Christine to talk further about the project.
Great, thank you, Ashley. So we didn't prepare a great, like a long presentation. We wanted to just give you a good overview of the project and really spend time answering any questions that you have. I'm gonna kind of kick us off and give you a very high level overview of what we're planning and our schedule. I'll turn it over to Brian and he'll dive down a little deeper and talk to you about kind of what the overall restoration plan and construction plan and restoration plan looks like. And then we'll turn it over to Dan and he will really get into more of the stream habitat restoration with the focus on fish. So this probably all looks familiar to you all. This is Highway 50 running through, thank you, Brian, up to Garfield there. And this is, there are 2 units associated with Salida. What we're showing you here are the facilities associated with Salida Unit 1. For the time being, we are still operating, well, I should say we are still operating Unit 2. So this plan does not include anything for Unit 2. And Unit 2 basically starts at the forebay there on the, yeah, Brian's got his hand there. And so Unit 2 starts there and goes further down, down river. Our Unit 2 powerhouse, what helps me remember where to turn to get to the powerhouse is the winery sign. I can't remember the name of the winery, but I always follow the winery signs. So to give you a sense of where that is if you're not familiar. So Garfield is the upper reservoir. Our plan is to remove the dam and the reservoir. There is a pipeline that goes between the Garfield Reservoir and Fooses Reservoir, and that will be removed as well. And then Fooses Reservoir and dam will also be removed, as well as the penstock that is from Fooses down to the Salida powerhouse. And the powerhouse sits right next to the forebay. We do plan to leave the powerhouse number 1 for now, so that will stay in what's called our FERC license. So we'll continue to maintain that building. But all of the rest of the infrastructure, save for a few small sections of pipe where it goes through wetlands, where it goes under the 226 County Road, those, and then there's a small piece on private land that will remain. And these facilities are located both on forest land and on private. So Garfield and Fooses are both on forest. Much of the Garfield pipeline is on forest with a little bit on private. And then I think it's about, I don't know, 3/4 forest, maybe 1/4 private.
But Christine, the green shading here coordinates to public and private there.
Thank you very much. So we are in our permitting process at the moment. We've been working for many years with the Forest Service, with Parks and Wildlife, with the State Water Quality Control Division on this plan for decommissioning and understanding what the Forest Service wants us to remove and how to proceed with the restoration and the the construction and the restoration since they are a landowner. So we've been working with them. They've been providing input to us along the way, and we really appreciate their input as we've moved through this. We're in the process of selecting a contractor, and our plan, assuming we have all of our permits in place, will be to start construction this summer, and we would start with the removal of Fooses. And then probably much of the pipeline, and then we would do Garfield in 2023. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Perfect. Thanks, Christine. So this is, as you can imagine, we have a fairly extensive plan set that walks through both reservoirs removals as well as the pipeline, showing everything. We've kind of distilled things down into a little more of a simplistic drawing here, just to try to reduce the amount of information that's presented at the moment. You can see here, this blue line that surrounds the site is the existing reservoir. So that's the limit of the existing water table out there at Fooses. There is, as you all probably know, the Forest Service road that runs up along the side of it. And what you can see here, this grayish area is actually where the dam, the earthen dam, it's a 30-foot tall earthen dam, is constructed. So the game plan would be to essentially come in, put in a coffer type dam, build bypass piping, and then essentially we create a dry work area. Bypass piping goes around, discharges down at the bottom of the base of the work area. And once that's set up, then we can go ahead. We're working with, we'll be working with Colorado Parks and Wildlife to do fish removal through here, and then breach the dam, remove the dam, do grading work, rebuild the stream. I'll zoom in a little bit to show some more on these details because it's probably pretty small on your screen. And then essentially the areas that you see in green, we've been working with the Forest Service to redo the landscaping of those areas. So we would go in, and the Forest Service went in and clipped native plants, took it to a nursery. They've been growing those. Those plants would then return this summer, and those would be then planted at the end of the grading effort here on this project. In general, you can see there is, obviously the stream is the blue. There are some typical pieces that I've thrown in here showing, stream sections with the boulder look, a general approach of kind of the pool cascades and the weirs. There are certainly more details than what I'm showing. I just pulled some of these up as representative, and Dan can talk a little bit more about these, but rock weirs, we've got, wood features in there. But this is Fouzes. I'm going to switch really quickly to Garfield, and then I'm going to turn this over to Dan to talk about, and that may be a good opportunity if there's more specific questions. Garfield, obviously, if you all have seen it, is a much smaller dam. It's a 12-foot tall concrete dam as opposed to the other one being 30-foot tall earthen. Footprint is this gray area that's much smaller, and then there's a smaller water body as well. You'll notice that, and again, blue being the stream, the green is the area that would be impacted by the grading effort. And so again, bringing in vegetation that's appropriate for the area, and much of it, whether it's seeds or clippings, were harvested from the area by the Forest Service, grown in a nursery, imported back in. It's not that you would recall, but this is a slightly different cross section than the one I showed you prior. And then that normal kind of cascade pool feature, and we've pulled out a couple different woody features that would be included as well. So with that, I want to pause, and Dan, I can flip back and forth, but why don't you go ahead and kind of run with some of the thinking about how things are built and are design reach and all, and that, to try to build a picture of the basis for this.
Certainly, thanks, Brian. So I'll just kind of run through the thought process and the design process for designing the stream portion of the project, give you an idea, and then I'll cover that fairly quickly, and then if you have questions, we can certainly address those. So really the idea with both of these dam removals is we want to connect upstream to downstream, obviously, of the stream, but in as natural and matching way as possible. So we want to make sure that we have a connectivity for sediment transport, for fish passage, for macroinvertebrates, and really the primary thing on that to get a well-functioning stream for the long term is that sediment transport. So we just want to make sure that we match things up for the stream so that sediment just moves right through here, and we have good connectivity. So to do that, we primarily break it down into three parts: plan, profile, and cross-section. So you can think of the plan view, which Brian has up here on the screen. We're looking at it from up above, and the primary feature there is the sinuosity. How many bends do we have? And we want that to match what's going on upstream and downstream. Fouzes is pretty straight. There's not a lot of room for additional sinuosity there, as opposed to what's going on with the South Arkansas. For the profile, think of that as the channel slope. And again, that has to do with how well and how well we move sediment through the newly constructed reaches. Both of these streams are quite steep. And so that top view that Brian has up there, those are average slopes. And that's the dam and the sediment are what he just highlighted there. And then the average slopes are the darker solid line. And then the next piece is the cross section, the third item that we look at. And so with that, we're again looking to match what's going on upstream, downstream, and really primarily upstream because it has, the same sediment coming through it. So we want to look at bankful width, bankful depth, floodplain width, and try to match those with what's going on in the adjacent reaches. So we did surveys, we matched up all that stuff, did a lot of computations, and by matching it to reference reaches, both upstream and downstream, we call that an analog design. So we're using those as references, and then we go through and check those computations, or check those with computations, hydraulic models, to look at things like vertical and lateral stability. Both of these streams, as far as the vertical stability, it's based on rock. And so we want to take a look at what's the gradation of the channel substrate, just the wide range that we need there of cobbles, gravels, sands, boulders, to make sure that it's vertically stable. Since both of these streams are really quite steep, the current grade control on the adjacent reaches ends up being some natural rock cross veins is really what they are. And that's what we are imitating with our design. Just naturally, the bigger rocks end up bumping into each other. They form some sort of vein that goes across. That traps some of the smaller cobbles, sands, gravels upstream of it, makes a little bit of a flatter area. And then there'll be a drop off of that, which creates a pool. That pool runs out, and then you'll get a cascade down to the next rock vein. So that's really what we're imitating here. So we've gone through our design process on spacing of those, size of the rock, those types of things. Then the second part of that stability is the lateral stability. So that's the stream wanting to move side to side. And the two streams are quite different on this. On Fouzes, the stream really depends on rock for that lateral stability. So the side of the channel is really lined with cobbles and boulders, and that provides that lateral stability. On the South Arkansas, it's different. It's really based on vegetation. And so that cross section that we have there is a good example. So for short-term lateral stability, we'll use that bank wrap that's at the top of the bank there. And that's made out of a coir fabric, which is coconut fiber that's, processed into a blanket. And we'll put soils, gravels inside of that. And then we'll have those willow cuttings underneath, as well as a bunch of other plantings up on the riparian floodplain area. So short term, that coir fabric has a life of maybe 3 years, might last as long as 5 before it decomposes, and it'll basically just turn to soil. And long-term stability will be those willow cuttings. And so that 3 to 5 years gives those willow cuttings time to establish roots, push out some branches, establish the leaves, and really lock down that upper bank more with the vegetation. So in addition, to that part, to the rock structure and the bank wraps, Brian mentioned that we've also added some large woody debris features. And so we took a look at what's naturally out there, tried to imitate those. We have a range of different structures from root wads, to log veins. There's a lot of trees that just fall completely across the streams, since the streams aren't that big, especially on Fouzes. And so we've added all of those, with the idea being that the ones that are down in the water in particular, that they add a lot of hydraulic variability, hydraulic complexity to the site. And from a fishery standpoint, that is important, because between the drops into the pools and these large woody debris structures, that hydraulic variability does things like sorts gravels so that you have spawning beds. It creates backwater areas for maybe rearing habitat for the fry. It creates pools and overhead cover for overwintering of the mature trout. So we're trying to just create very closely or very similarly to what we're seeing on the adjacent reaches. On the South Arkansas, we fully realize that at some point there is going to be a beaver dam right in the middle of this reach. You know, it's just a matter of time as to how long that takes. The one other feature that I did want to point out on the plan that we have here is that we did try to take advantage of a bedrock wall that's down there on the bottom side, the brown hatched area, and just run the stream right up against there, kind of on the outside of a bend, in the hopes that we'll get some deeper scour there, maybe create a deeper pool. Just trying to take advantage of the features that we could find on site. So I guess that's a quick rundown, and I'll turn it over to questions.
I have a question. In the lower reaches of the South Ark, some of us have been working pretty hard to see if we can't connect floodplains and wetlands to the stream channel down there to work in a more effective way than they are now, or just reconnecting them, basically. Is any of the green shading here wetland area? I mean, I know there's some wetlands up there. Are we going to reconnect wetlands with any of these reaches?
There definitely are wetlands throughout both these, particularly in Garfield, which is the one we're looking at here. But the other piece that we have to, so you can see it's a little, I mean, to me, this is screaming out, but it's because I drew this. The tight lines here are steep slopes. Obviously, as the lines spread out, that means that it's much flatter. So in this case, we have more of a wetland area on the inside of this bend, and then more of a wetland potential on the inside of this bend. But as would naturally occur, if you look at the overall slope where it's steep on this side and steep on this side, they chose to put the dam at the narrowest part of the valley, appropriately so, and therefore it's hard to do a good wetland, a broad wetland connection through this area, just because before the dam was ever built, it was already constrained, which is why they chose to put the dam there. So, and I will also mention that, and I don't have that cross section up, but Fouzes has a similar schematic where we have a wetland area beside the stream channel itself. And I can probably pull that up readily here. There we go. So you can see we're showing a stream channel width, we're showing a 10-year flow depth, a 2-year flow depth, and then this would be the wetland areas would be these, the 10-to-1 slopes off on the sides. And that would be typical throughout the reach of Fouzes and a similar design at Garfield. Keith, does that help?
Yes, that's great. Very good explanation. Since nobody else raised their hand, I'll go on with another one. You said you were working with CPW. I assume that's going to be a cooperative relationship. This to me would provide a great new opportunity to establish populations of native trout in there. I know there's some up there on Foozes Creek up a little higher. The existing dams obviously provide a barrier, a physical barrier for fish that are non-native getting up there. Is this design going to incorporate that at all? And are you working pretty good with CPW at this point?
Christine, do you want to talk about the CPW coordination? And then there's a second part to his question, obviously.
Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, something weird was going on with my unmute, so, okay. Yes, it has been a very good working relationship with CPW. They've been very helpful with us, for us, and, figuring out how we, once we kind of empty the water out of the reservoir and, we put in the bypass, there'll obviously still be fish in the lake. And we've talked about, trying to pull out as much fish beforehand, before we start draining, and then they'll help us with saving the fish that are still in there. They also, as you know, there's some beaver dams up the South Arkansas, and they're helping us with that as well. So they've been really helpful in figuring, kind of some of those logistics out. We have not talked with them about species introduction or anything like that. So this is really just, putting, like Dan described, putting back a stable stream that has fish habitat in mind. And I think that, pursuit of reintroduction of fish species certainly would be possible here once we're finished.
Very good. National Trout Unlimited is also undergoing a program to identify what they term priority waters throughout the country. And our chapter nominated a few. One of them at my pushing was the South Arkansas River from the headwaters to the confluence, designated as a priority water in TU's lexicon. I guess I'm bringing that up just because there's some potential funding that could come through National TU. I believe all of your work that's planned has been budgeted for and is in good shape. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, we'll, since this is a required project for us to do, because of the license and the obligations that we have to FERC and to the powerhouse, or to the Forest Service. Yeah, this is a project that we're required to do. And so Excel is, it's a capital project that we are proceeding. Yeah. And the funding is there to do it. Brian, we had a question in the chat. Some more information about the revegetation plan. Could you pull up maybe one of those drawings that show the seed mixes?
So there's a lot of information. We have an ecologist and a landscape architect that are part of the team. And then we're also working with the Forest Service as far as, and their group as far as plant mix, seed mixes, what we can introduce, how we should handle things, timing, planting depth, soil amendments, that type of thing. So this is a basic landscaping plan. The important piece out of here is there are different hatches based on what type of area we're around. So this area next to the stream obviously is more riparian. Away from the stream we get to upland. What I do want to get to is there's details in here about willows, planting willows, doing potted plants, as well as then leaving some woody features for the leaving some woody features around, so it's not all uniform, just a nicely graded with grass growing. Want to break that up for some upland habitat or riparian habitat a bit as well. And then there is a seed mix, which we don't have spelled out all the species that are part of it, but we've been coordinating with the Forest Service about that seed mix. So I can try to answer more on landscaping, but that is not my specialty, but I'm happy to dive into it if there's more questions. And Brian, is your hand up still to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about this whole project, and it seems from the Trout Unlimited standpoint pretty interesting to our chapter. And we're always kind of looking for volunteer opportunities for our membership, which is, I think, 300 or so people. I can't speak for the chapter as a whole, but if you guys are ever looking for volunteer work, it might be something to work with us on.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think after we do the initial project and do the plantings, I imagine that there'll be some work to be done in subsequent years, maintenance and that sort of thing, just to make sure that things are growing and things are stable, getting stabilized. And so that's really good to know, that's an opportunity that we could look into.
Thanks for bringing that up, Brian. That is absolutely important. We're always looking for boots on the ground projects that we can get involved in. There's lots of issues, financing, liability, and all that. Many of our active members just love getting into the water and planting willows. And so, yes, please do keep us in mind if there's any way we can get integrated in the future.
Okay.
Brian, is your hand up again, or is it just a residual?
No, I'll lower it.
Okay. And Karen, looks like your hand's up.
Okay, I'm not used to using that part. So I had a couple questions in the chat here. So I'm directionally challenged. So I'm still unsure about which dam is at the powerhouse that will remain on the lower river. Is that Salida Hydro 1?
So yeah, let me walk you through real quick. Garfield is the dam up here, a small concrete dam, 12 feet tall. We're going to remove. The pipeline will get removed. Yeah. Fouzes Reservoir is the larger of the two we were looking at. That's the 30-foot tall earthen dam. That will get removed. The pipeline gets removed. And then down here is Salida Hydro number 1. That's a historic brick building. That building will remain. And then everything downstream remains. Karen, did that answer your?
No, does that little dam go away?
This little dam will stay.
No, it stays.
Okay.
Yeah, it stays. So what happens is so Unit 1 hasn't been operating for quite some time, but what happens is when the water comes through this pipe, turns the turbine in the powerhouse, the water comes back out and goes back into the stream right above the forebay. So that hasn't been happening. So the water just comes down South Clear Creek into the forebay, and the forebay, it's like a storage reservoir that the pipeline goes into the forebay, and then this pipeline then runs down and feeds Unit 2. So Unit 2 continues to operate, and so this forebay is still needed for operations.
Okay.
Does that help?
A little. So Unit 1 is the lake where a lot of people fish. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's Fouzes. Yep, that's Fouzes.
That's Fouzes?
Yeah, Brian pulled up.
Well,
Brian pulled up a picture there.
Yeah,
of the forebay.
I see that's Hydro 1, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
maybe
that's the forebay.
This is the
If you guys are confused, this is not good.
I think we're running
No.
into Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, show
Yeah.
me the satellite picture.
Talking over each other.
So this is Fouzes Dam. I think that's the area that folks come up fishing to. There's a little wooden ramp up here that folks can for handicap access to fish from. There's a pit toilet up here, and then access continues on to the Colorado, to the Colorado Trail.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. There is a fair amount of fishing at Hydro One, though. It gets stocked and it's fished frequently as well.
Yep, it is.
Okay, so and that hydro one, number one that we're talking about, Karen, is this building that you can see here that will remain, and this forebay and the water impounded here will remain, as well as the embankment through here. So all of the building and this water will remain. It's everything to the left of the building that starts coming out.
Okay. Those satellite pictures are more helpful to me.
Good.
I'm not sure I can explain all that in my notes.
Oh, and Karen, you also had a question about public access.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Garfield and Fouzes currently sit on public lands. So, you know, there'll still be access to those public lands. It'll just be a little bit different recreation experience than what's there now.
So this one at the Monarch Spur RV Park, 225 is the one that you get to go to the Fouzes one?
Right, yes.
Thank you. The powerhouse that's remaining is at the forebay.
Correct.
Okay. This powerhouse at Fouzes is going away,
There is no powerhouse.
or whatever these buildings are, or is that private?
Karen, those are private homes.
Okay, thank you.
that you
Yeah,
see
those
right there.
are-
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are homes in the Monarch
Okay.
Estates subdivision.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Keith, does that answer all your questions about re-veg? And Nancy, your questions?
I'm good for now. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more dialogue. I did have one other question. I think I know the answer to this one already, but we've got a flow regime issue on the lower sections. And so I was really thrilled to hear about these two dams coming out. Oh boy, we'll have more water to put in our section of the South Arc. I am correct in assuming that this is all non-consumptive use at this point, so there's not going to be any leftover water.
Yeah, the water right, is mostly non-consumptive, just for hydropower generation. I think there's just a little bit of storage in the reservoirs for just for the storage for the surface area of the reservoir. But I think that's it. And we've actually talked with the conservation district, whose name escapes me at the moment, to see if there was any interest in us transferring, the rights that are there that are just a small bit of area for the reservoirs, if they would be interested in transferring.
And what did they say?
Get great feedback on that. So, that was a few years ago. So now that we're kind of getting closer to actually starting the project, we'll probably reach out to them and see where they're at with that.
I'd be happy to help enable that. And I would love to get my hands on that plan set so I could zoom in and out as I'd like. Is that available?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're public information. So yeah, we can share them.
I'll put my email in the chat if that helps and help enable that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you want those also, Keith?
I'll be happy to distribute those once I get them. Karen,
Okay.
make sure y'all have them if you want them. There was a lot of detail in there, and I appreciate that you guys were moving quickly, and thank you for sharing that level of detail in such a short time frame. I appreciate the presentation. It's been great.
I'll coordinate our chapter with Nancy.
Great, thank you.
And Nancy, on that, there may be a bit of a lag. We're finishing off some details based on some conversations from the Forest Service. So we'd like to probably get those incorporated before those go out. So that's holding us up by a couple weeks.
Understood. And hopefully we've got relationships with the Forest Service as well. So if we can be part of that conversation, we'd love to. So thank you again.
Okay, one final answer from me. Question. So you've got, is Garfield considered the number one, or is that or neither?
They're both part of Unit 1.
Those both are part of Unit 1. The plan is to come out. The lower one with the powerhouse, is that considered number 2?
The powerhouse is number 1, and the pond next to it is number 2.
The 4-bay is number 2.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions out there? Did we get them all in the chat?
I think so.
Okay.
I know that was really fast, but thank you very much. I mean, that was very helpful. And especially when we get these, people can understand when I look at the satellite, then I can figure it out better. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And if you all have questions, Keith knows how to get in touch with me. So yeah, just let us know if you have further questions or, would like an update or, whatever you need.
Yeah, if you could just keep us posted on when you're going to start that work, or just send it to Keith or whatever, and he'll keep us posted. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
Christine, I have forgotten, when's the next decommissioning large group meeting? Is there one planned for next month?
No, not yet. We're waiting. So the next one that we have will be with the historic properties stakeholder. And we have a memorandum of agreement that we're working on. And so we'll set the next meeting when that's ready to be distributed and to talk about it. So, but probably in March sometime, I would guess, in early March.
Thank you. Well, thanks to the whole group of presenters. It was brief but very informative. We appreciate it.
You bet.
You're welcome. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks you as well.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. I don't think we ever decided who was going to run this meeting, but
I appreciate it, and I appreciate being a part of it, you guys. To me, that was really fascinating. I took a bunch of screenshots, and Karen, I saw your question about water or the willows being self-watering, and I think it really depends on how well it's done. And that's kind of why I was poking to see more about the vegetation plan. And I'm fascinated by the whole process. And I hope that the Forest Service and CPW are doing its service. I'm sure they are. And we can back around the other side of the circle and check.
Yeah, that's good. We just need to ask them to do before and after photos.
I would kind of put a little bit on that on us or on you if you can. As soon as the snow starts to melt, if anybody's got before and after pictures already, to just kind of put them in a file for before. And those things are always hard to come by from the engineer's point, because they are going to, do their best shot. So it'll be good to keep tabs. And I don't know, Excel may be still listening, and that's fine too. I really think it's an interesting project, and I'm fascinated by the potential outcome.
Okay. Are we ready to keep going with our regular meeting?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. All right, I can do this fast if you want. All righty, thanks for all of you for being here. Our consent agenda, I think all we need to do with that is to accept the agenda. If there's any additions or corrections, accept the December 8th minutes. I think my initial agenda said 12:20, and accept the treasurer's report, which Pam does a great job on.
I motion that we accept the minutes and the treasurer report. This is Rick.
That's what I thought. Yeah, if you
Karen.
can say your name, because I'm typing as I can't do the screen.
Certainly.
Okay. Do I hear a
Do we have
second?
a second?
I'll second.
Kim,
Kim. Yep.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Okay, under our remarks, has anybody heard from Eric lately?
Eric is back in town. I have not talked to him for, gosh, about 3 or 4 weeks. He's probably been back for 2 or 3. He's trying to do a little bit of skiing.
Oh, good.
I don't, he hasn't returned any of my calls. I think he's talked to Tom or not once. I think he's just trying to not rehash it and, talk to everybody about the same thing. I think he's trying to kind of forget a little of this, but his son Chase and him are doing a memorial at their house in April. I can tell you that much. So that's all I can say about it. I hope he's doing okay, and I cannot tell you any more than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Keith, how are you doing on your hip? 30 seconds or less?
Pretty good, yeah, as well as can be expected. It's only been 6 days, so I can't quite figure why I'm not 100% back yet, but no, I'm doing well. All the protocols are being met. I'm trying to do my exercises. I'm gaining more mobility as day goes by. That spinal block that they gave me just really destroyed both my legs for 2 or 3 days. Laying in bed when you can't move a leg is really hard, but I'm doing good
Good,
for an old guy.
good, okay.
And I did get that email from Eric about the service. I think it's April 28th. It's pretty far away, but I have backed off from trying to get Eric to resume the new normal. I want to give him a little more time, but I think one of the best things for him to do would be get back into Riverwatch. He enjoyed that so much that it's going to be a good therapy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whoever's comfortable, if you want to send him an email or a note, just reach out and tell him we miss him. We can do that. Okay, the upcoming meetings and events schedule. I sent you a thing about potential board versus member meetings. I actually got, Bobby encouraged us to I think we're the program committee, to just do it. I reached out to Chris Dirksen because he couldn't do May. He could do September 14th. talking about, he thought small streams in Southwest Colorado, in the San Luis Valley, I think, on Rio Grande cutthroats. So is that something you want to do?
I'd love to hear from Chris. September 14th.
That's our regular meeting date.
We have a Moonlight Pizza, our annual thing, on the 12th, 2 days prior. I'm not sure that conflicts with anything. The Moonlight is sort of a social
Yeah.
situation. We certainly can have a meeting 2 days later. Who knows if we're meeting in person or not on the 14th. I hope we are. We should be. If we are meeting in person on the 14th, I don't know how that'll affect attendance between the 12th and the 14th with our core group.
I don't think it'll be a big deal, personally. I suppose you could always move the meeting date and have a social first and then go to a meeting, but I don't know about that. Anybody else? Thoughts?
gonna-
Karen, I think it would be a good idea to move Chris to the 14th of September. It's a topic we've not touched on for quite a while. And I think there'd be some interest in that. And I don't believe it would conflict with our Moonlight fundraiser.
I'm going to jump off here, folks. I'm going to go take some meditation. So
Okay,
Talk to
thank you
you
so
all
much,
later.
Keith. That was good.
Thank you,
I'm glad
Keith.
everybody got something.
Take care of yourself, Keith.
I will. Bye.
Good night.
Okay,
I'm
Anybody else?
good with that. We could stick with Moonlight and have a general meeting 2
Yeah.
days later, unless anyone else thinks there's a conflict. I don't think there is either.
okay,
Um,
okay. So we're just stuck with May, which I just put, somebody had suggested a couple things that I put in there. Jerry Mallett talking on beavers, or most likely he'd talk about the homestake project in Holy Cross. We talked about having Perry Edwards, the new Salida District Ranger, talk to us.
What about Alex Townsend? I thought
Well,
he
Alex
was-
is in March. He's next
Oh,
month.
that's next.
You knew
all right.
that.
Yeah. I have that. So,
Or, I mean, just have a happy hour at Highside, and we could invite the district ranger to that, but he'd be just repeating himself over and over to people. Anybody have any other ideas?
Karen, I'd like to hear from the new district manager. Can we put him in then on the 11th?
In
Would
May?
that give us
May.
enough time to get him scheduled?
Oh, I think so. That's May, right?
Yeah.
I can reach out to him.
He's new to the community, so it'd be nice to put a name and a face together.
Okay.
so is that anyone else have any
Yeah.
opinion on having a speaker for the general meeting versus a happy hour? Which way are we leaning? Speaker, anyone else for speaker? Anyone for happy hour social?
We could do both too, just have them on a different day like we're going to do in September,
We could.
because early May is always iffy.
We could. Mhm. Well, it
I-
certainly was.
I
ahead,
honestly
David.
don't think they go together very well.
Right.
Well, not on the same night. I don't think we're talking the same evening, are we?
No,
Separate.
just do a separate. You want to do I'm just throwing out a date before it gets too crazy. May 25th, it's a Wednesday. I mean, somebody else,
I was talking to Brian or emailing Brian earlier about possibly also having it moving it to Moonlight. I mean, it's not set
Okay.
up for anywhere. We had it last year at High Side. I'm thinking,
That's cool.
send Ryan the business. He can chime in. He said he wouldn't be there that evening.
Which evening is that?
Well, we did have a proposed. Well, it could be any time, actually. See, he could be there then. We could not do it on the 11th. Do it a little later in May, and that would work better for Brian. I'd love to have him there to meet some people, especially it's his restaurant if he wants to do that.
Yeah, I'm out of town on the 12th, but I should be around on the 25th. So if that's something everybody was interested in, I think we could make something work for that.
Okay, so I pencil it in for that.
What day is that?
It's a Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesdays are, I should let Ryan speak to that. We definitely want to avoid busier nights.
Right.
So
What works?
Yeah, Wednesday
Ryan?
is gonna be one of our slower nights. So I think that's probably a good bet.
All right.
All right, I'll just pencil that in. What time did you guys do that? At 5-ish or 4-ish or what?
I think we did it at 4. I think they had a happy hour, so I think we got some reduced prices on drinks and such. It was 4 to 6, if I remember correctly. It also allowed us to kind of leave the restaurant at 6 and allow the restaurant to, take on their normal evening.
Yeah.
But I'll defer that. It could be any time. Ryan, what are you thinking? Time.
I think you nailed it there. 4 to 6 is pretty good for
Okay.
that exact
Perfect.
purpose.
So I'm thinking one thing about High Side, and I think Ryan can accomplish this at his establishment. High Side had that middle room that was covered, so wind or weather would not affect our get together. And Brian, of course, is the ability as the inside, part of the inside, perhaps we could take. And with the doors, they could be open if it's nice or shut if they're not. Or I think he offers a similar kind of setup for protection, especially at that hour. We wouldn't be taking over the whole restaurant from 4 to
Right.
6. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I'm meeting with my partners tomorrow. We just kind of talk about monthly agenda like this, and I'll just make sure we're good to go and get back to everybody, but it shouldn't be a problem.
Great.
Okay,
Thank
we
you.
can work out the details and then get everything to Karen and in the newsletter. We write something in the newsletter. We can even do a blast if we want to. So just
It's not
for
till
now,
May,
we can
though,
do
so
it.
We're good.
End of May, weather should be improving a little. So, all right, let's set that up tentatively for that date at those hours, and we'll work out stuff later and make sure Brian's partners are good with it as well.
Okay. And so the other unknown, and Larry's not here, in the past, we've had a picnic sometimes in August, sometimes in September. Sometimes we've had a camping trip. I think Larry Payne had agreed to still kind of head that up. Am I correct?
I don't know. I know that he was our representative to the Citizens Task Force,
Right.
Which Bob is also part of. I don't know about the social. I don't know if he wanted to. I can't remember. I know that he expressed it was very difficult to find campgrounds, and he thought that whole idea should just go away because you just can't reserve enough spaces anymore. So I think that left it to let's do a picnic. And last year we ran into problems trying to find a place to do a picnic. So we can certainly reload that gun and try to see if that is going to work this year. So
I'll ask Larry to reconfirm that, because I thought you were right. I thought he said no, and then he thought he came back and said, yeah, he would do that. So I'll reconfirm. And then everybody, we have a lot of time, can just kind of look around and see if there's places that we might go to for a picnic. You know, there's always the Poncha Town Hall, because you can bring your own alcohol there. That's always kind of been our thing.
Yes, that would be kind of a backup plan to a better plan of being outside.
Right.
But yes, we can have liquor there, which was the issue with trying to do something in the town of Salida at a park. Alcohol and parks don't mix, and we found some good locations, and the alcohol is the issue. So it's nice that we can do that at Poncha Springs. And
Pam, do
I
we
think
still
that's a
have our-
backup.
Do we
plan.
still have our money deposit with Poncha, Pam?
Yes, we do. We've got $30
Yeah.
in their treasury for half a day rental. We said just keep it, you know, the New Year's coming up, we could arrange to use it.
Okay. Well, we'll put that on the agenda for next time, or should we just reach out or pick a date in August? Wait,
I think the question mark is fine at this point. We're
Okay.
far off on it. I don't
Okay.
think we have to be that definitive at this point.
right,
Possible picnic in August.
okay, okay. Okay, deposits. Jim McGannon's not on this. He thought he was in transit to come back down here. So I think I sent you all the stuff. He is going to be now the CTU liaison. He's going to take Reed's place on the Bull Moose calls. He did it last week and was interested, which was great. Reed will still be the liaison on the whatchamacallit train. And then, so I sent you all very late because I just got it from Jim, all the legislation that is possibly going to be introduced into the House. So I think it's just kind of good to, you know, keep our ears open to be aware of some of this. If they need us to take action, you know, they'll let us know for that. Anybody have any other comments on their report or any of that? Questions?
That falls under advocacy as well, right?
It does.
All this, yeah.
Yep.
And there's a third member on advocacy, and that is Bob. Are you advocacy now? Or
Yeah,
is
I
that
do.
David?
Yeah, somewhat in the water world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just
Okay.
at everything. So,
Yeah.
so, okay, we'll go to the next one.
All right.
So,
I would like to add that I was on that call as well.
oh,
on
good, thank you.
Saturday. I was really interested in seeing how that board operates
Oh, good.
and learn about the Bull Moose Committee and all their other committees. It was very informative. I thought everyone was really speaking up and involved, and there was a lot of good information passed along on what CTU is doing at the state level that really affects all the chapters. So sometime if you've got like 3 hours you want to spend on a Saturday morning, I would say participate in one of those Zoom meetings. It was quite enlightening.
So that call that you listened into was not Bull Moose, it was the CTU Winter Rendezvous call.
Yes, it was.
Right.
Correct.
okay.
It was not Bull Moose,
Right.
but
It was
But,
actually a quarterly board meeting.
Quarterly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so the CTU meets as a board 4 times a year, 9 o'clock to noon on Saturdays. And they used to meet in the fall in Salida. And a great opportunity to anyone here on the board to attend that. I think hopefully we'll be back to in-person meetings for the quarterly board meetings. But as Pam suggested, anyone is welcome to join the meeting, and you don't even have to participate. Just listen and you'll learn a lot. So don't be, dive in and listen in. It's an education. There's a lot of information. It's very worthwhile.
All right, and my eyes skipped here because I was typing. I skipped over the other event. The The next rendezvous is the spring rendezvous, May 21st and 22nd, scheduled right now to be in person at
In
Redstone.
person.
And it's
Yeah.
especially for you new people, it's a cool place to go, number one. And it's also extremely informative. Lots of, people from all over and breakout sessions. And you also get a chance to fish the Crystal River there.
Erin, what were those dates again?
May 21st and 22nd. And there's usually a fee, but for new people who haven't been before, in the past, the chapter has covered that fee. And I guess we need to decide if we're still going to do that or if it's in the budget, Pam. We didn't spend much last year, so.
I'm pretty sure we could find some dollars in the budget. It's not broken out specifically by line item for that,
Okay.
but we do have funds associated to meetings.
Yeah, it's a historic hotel, or you can stay at a cheap place in Glenwood, Carbondale, if you want. So if any of you new people especially are interested, since Pam's the keeper of the checkbook, let her know. Okay.
And the chapter, I just want to clarify, it covers the cost of the registration, not
Yes.
the hotel.
That's correct.
So what some people have done before, if we've had two people, they've shared a hotel room.
Right.
And we haven't had that many attend other than Keith and Reed and maybe you, Karen, lately.
I've been a couple times, climates have been, and that's also the time at which they give the state awards or some state awards. Sometimes they do it at the gala. And so we've often had volunteers of the year. We've had chapter of the year. We've had silver trout members. So if you guys have anybody or anything you want to nominate, I think Keith was a recent winner. Barbara Plake was a recent winner. Tom Palka was a recent winner.
They like our chapter.
Yeah. So
there's a little fishing involved and there's a little bit of happy hours involved.
Yeah,
it's fun. So go, please. Yeah.
And they'll have a agenda sooner. Okay. So then we did Bullports. Okay, Bob, since you were you at the Arkansas Basin Network meeting?
The Arkansas Basin Network meeting.
Isn't that what it was? I don't know, the one that Keith
Yeah,
was on?
there's a couple different things. That is a new network trying to be formed by PEPO, the Public Education and Public Outreach, and Public Education Participation and Outreach. It's an educational piece of the roundtable, and they're looking at kind of branching out and forming a network with the other groups that want to do water education. So it's just another network, another meeting, and another circle of people that most of them meet in different circles already, like the Upper Ark Watershed Partnership folks. A lot of those folks were on that meeting, if that's the one you're speaking of. And that's brand new and just trying to get formed. So yeah, I was there.
Okay, so
I'm on that board.
the thing that went along with all that stuff is the spreadsheet I sent you with the local conservation organizations. And it's pretty ridiculous, actually. What are there? 20, I can't get 30, 29. And that
Yeah.
doesn't include, and fortuitously enough, I had this email, I don't know if Bob or Tom Palka sent it to me, from some research person in Utah called the River Project. And they want to talk to us about the conservation things that, we do in the other organizations. And so I sent that to her and she says, oh, that was very helpful. So she's and I are Zooming next week, I think, to see what she wants to know.
Okay.
So if
Yeah,
any of you, probably specifically Bobby, because you're probably involved in all these, will take a look for your nightly reading and fill in the blanks of who belongs where. And if anybody wants to be a liaison, I have Bobby there because just on a lot because he's already there. And
Yeah, well, there's things that come up that I think pertain to TU, I'm willing to
Right.
share those.
Right.
The main thing sometimes that I participate, even like that new network group, is to make sure that there's just not going to be there's not going to be
Exactly.
redundancy in hashing out things. I said, you got to stay in your own lane with education, and you can't be talking about projects and doing other kinds of work. It's like you are reaching out beyond this network and trying to educate the public and, doing that kind of thing. So it works fine if people just do the work that they're set out to do and not try to just keep reinventing a wheel and to have too much redundancy. I do have a couple other things that I can touch base with that
Yeah.
you guys might be interested in that have just come up. Today, we had our first voluntary flow management plan meeting about the flow program. And it's a little early to have projections on what the import water might be, but the snowpack is looking pretty good. Especially in the import area, the basin on the west side where the water comes from, the top of the Fry Arc project. And so we're looking pretty good there. Some other things that are of interest to TU, I think, is that there is 125 CFS of project water being released right now to make room in Turquoise and Twin for this import water. And they will continue to run that water until May 1st is the plan right now. Of course, that could change according to a lot of different things, more snow, less snow, whatever might occur, but that's the plan right now. So as you see today, I believe it was about 360 or so at Wellsville, which is maybe 100 CFS more than I was floating it in September and October.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of what it is right now. And, going into the summer, Pueblo has also talked to us about they're going to release their water during the VFMP rafting flow water time frame of July 1st to August 15th, which this will be the third year in a row that they do that. And that has enabled this flow program to actually make it all the way through the 15th. So Pueblo has been an amazing partner in this, in recognizing when the best time to move their water is. And, Colorado Springs will do some exchanges, and they usually do those on top of the high water, peak water time frames. So we don't hardly get affected by that, whether you're fishing or rafting or whatever. So good partnerships are happening in the water world. As far as VFMP is going. The other thing is I sent you guys notices about the forum. The Arkansas River Basin Forum is in Salida. And I sent you the registration newsletter, I think. I don't see heads waving. No? You guys didn't get it?
So. Anybody else get it?
You don't open your email from me?
I saw it, Bob, earlier.
Okay.
I've been gone all day.
I know, that's okay.
I received it.
Okay.
I just can't get there.
Okay, it's April 28th and 29th in Salida. A lot of open air tours in the afternoon. Hopefully a lot of open doors and windows. We expect it to be live. It will be shown virtually as well. But, we're kind of excited about getting back after it. Some really good topics and a little bit shorter version. We eliminated the VIP dinner, so it's 2 days. We're going to do a raft trip as part of it on Thursday afternoon. So we're not doing fishing this year. Trying not to stress out the fishing guides that helped us a few years ago, right in April, kind of a tough time to get away. But anyway, that's what's going on with the forum. I also
So should we send somebody else to that, or are you going to be isn't there a registration fee or no?
Yeah, there is a registration fee. It's $100 for 1 day, $200 for 2 days. In the past, I think TU and Salida actually did a sponsorship. I think you guys.
Right, I think we did.
Which, depending on the level of sponsorship, does include some free registrations.
Is the sponsorship information in the registration packet?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
ARBWF.org.
What is it?
Arkansas River Basin Water Forum, ARBWF.org. That's the website, and the registration and the convention and the forums info is on that.
So I guess, well, we've got a thing in March. Anybody have any feeling about being a sponsor? I know Keith would know if we were in the face.
I'm pretty sure TU was, and we actually had some TU folks participate in the fishing tour that we did that year. We had a couple people from TU come down.
Pam, would you look in the past expenditures perhaps to see if what we spent? And then maybe send us something and we can vote by email if we want to do it again?
Yeah, I can look for it.
Okay.
I recall that there was a line item for it in our budget over many years. And it may have been in there as a placeholder, but we just didn't add any dollars to it. But that shouldn't be a problem, but I will research that a little bit.
Okay. A couple other things. I think you guys had some interest in the Lowhead Dam removal in Salida. And it was brought to Parks' attention about, from a fishing standpoint, the concern about how much silt might potentially be behind that dam. And they will be looking at what might potentially be a problem or not behind there and figure out what to do. The engineering's not completely done on that situation yet. And so we'll be watching that from that aspect. I mean, the other concern is we don't think that there's an issue with the gradient as far as creating something like the silver bullet in BV or anything like that.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. And hopefully, there'll be a little fish habitat improvement to go along with obviously removing the siltation and that kind of thing.
Was that in the plan? I mean, how many people were at that meeting?
I went to the morning session. It was probably 20. I think Larry Payne was there. I didn't get to talk to him. He kind of left before I could.
I sent my comments ahead of time since I was out of the country.
No, so they
I
got it.
have the copy of the engineering program. If anybody wants me to send it to them, I can forward it on.
Yeah,
And then
the
I just wanted
initial.
to- both Bob and I will be at that forum.
At the Water Basin Forum?
Yep.
We'll hopefully have 8 outfitters there, I'm guessing. I'm hoping for. The other piece of news I think I sent you guys just recently was about the Roger Hill case in Texas Creek. Did you guys look at that? Mark Spilacci's
Yeah,
take on that. So that's something we need to watch. That could be a very big deal on the Arkansas and in Colorado. We'll see how far along that goes. So anyway, I don't know if anybody has any questions on that or anything else.
Bob, can you speak briefly about back to Snow Basin, snowpack? I'm just totally out of tune being out of state for 3 months and curious how we're doing up high. I'm surprised you said it's looking good.
It is good.
What do you elaborate if you could?
It's a little bit over 100%. The biggest concern in the past few years has been the soil moisture content. And I just listened to, there was a program today about the Colorado River drainage and what's going on in Powell and Lake Mead and all of those reservoirs. And the big thing is, it's amazing what the low soil moisture content is doing to the runoff actually making it to the rivers. So 100% snowpack doesn't mean that you're getting 100% flow, so that's really interesting. Some of the numbers they were quoting are just staggeringly low, like 100% turning into 56% stream flow. And, I think it's a little better here, but it's a factor that we never had to pay attention to as closely as we had in the last 4 or 5 years. Well, this whole drought period, the past 10 years or so, 20. But it's just getting worse with the soil moisture.
The other thing that factors into that is that every 10 years they reallocate what 100% is. So
yes,
this is not 100% of what it was back in the 80s. This is what it was 100% in the last 10 years. So
that's a good point.
Lower than it used to be.
That's a good point, Bill. In fact, some of the stats that they're quoting and looking at right now in projections for the Colorado Basin have just been recalc. And yeah, you're right. It makes a big difference when we're talking about 2000 to now versus the 80s. Yeah, very good point.
Hey, Bob, I did have a question about the Roger Hill case.
Okay.
I didn't really know the beginning story, but is it a matter of landowners trying to limit navigable waters?
Well, the question is, nobody can interpret what navigable waters is. That term hasn't been fully interpreted. The deal was Roger Hill and Joe Sales, who actually were fishing clients of mine, were in Texas Creek fishing across from Mark Warsaw and Linda Joseph's property. They're the folks that used to own the Cotopaxi liquor store. So I know those guys as well. But some really bizarre, they were throwing rocks at them. And one thing I could hardly believe, but it happened, was Linda came out with a gun and shot some fired off a couple of rounds, and that just got Roger Hill all fired up. And he said that he had legal access to the river through a private property into the river, walking up the river bank below high water mark, and said he had a legal right to do that. And that is what is being challenged. In the first part of the court case, they actually threw it out and said that he couldn't represent the state of Colorado in a way to determine that navigability issue, which would, again, lead to the rest of the lawsuit. And so they came around with the appeal, and where it stands now is they say that he can do that and ask the question. And so if you read Mark Scalacci, who is his attorney's response to my email, he was pretty forward about it. He goes, it's not over, but we're way farther along than anybody ever has been in Colorado in trying to determine that, the navigability. If you remember, states in our history, when a state became a state, they had to file their navigable waters for statehood. And Arkansas did have beaver traffic and movement of railroad ties and logs for lumber. And those things, under some interpretations, do constitute commerce and navigability. And we'll see if they have to prove that, apparently.
Thanks for keeping up on that. Yeah, it'll be very important to this valley. Okay, let's see, where are we here? Thank you, Bobby, for updating us all on that.
Okay.
So Pam was good. I made a note that I need to make sure for national, I keep a record of the number of members and non-members are at board meetings and member meetings. So I wrote it down. So the CTU Gala is virtual this year. Last year, they asked for sponsors. We were a sponsor last year, Pam told me, at $750. This year, that same level is $800. Gets you 5 tickets and access to a drawing, and then free admission to some summer event they hope to have in person. So I don't know if anybody was able to go to the link. They have an auction. You can, bid online and sometimes you get some pretty cool stuff. Any feeling about sponsorship? Because this is their major fundraiser. We would, in the past, for the new folks, we would always buy a table, or one of our members would generously buy a table and we reimbursed half, or members could get tickets for half price. So last year,
I'd make a motion that we go ahead and sponsor.
Okay. Second?
I'll second that. This is Rick.
Any other discussion? Because the
So
other thing for the new people, when we used to have our big Caddis Festival, we would always give, I think, 20%ish to CTU for all they, help do us. And that ended up being how much a year, maybe, Pam? $4,000 to $8,000?
Historically, that is right. However, it's kind of two separate things.
Right now,
This is their gala fundraiser,
right?
and the funds that we would give them after any kind of a fundraiser is a different pot of money. So I would say that we should do a sponsorship at the River Defender at the 800 for now.
Okay.
And then later, after the end of our fiscal year, our policy is to look at our fundraising amounts and then determine if we are going to make a separate contribution to CTU.
Thank you for that clarification.
My
Any
motion
other-
would be for the 800.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed? Thank you. So
Karen, I will contact the new organizer and let her know that we will be purchasing a sponsorship.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I already did this. Let's skip that one. I want to come back to this one in a minute. So, because it has to do with money again, Pam said, I think it's still in the budget to sponsor a youth camper for Colorado Youth Conservation and Fly Fishing Camp again. And that was already budgeted, is that right, Pam?
Right, it was budgeted for this year. This camp is going to be in June, so it will be a new budget year for us by June. So we'll just go ahead and budget for it again.
Okay.
And historically, I think right now we budgeted $1,000 for our current budget year, which we're not, I guess we could squeak it in this year because we do the first part of April. So if we have applicants that we want to sponsor, we could get it out of this year's budget.
Okay.
I would suggest that we pass this task along to our youth education committee and have them take the steps to advertise and look for some candidates for us, for the chapter. There is an application, there is a
$50
essay,
application fee.
yeah, there's an essay part to it. So it does take a little bit of work. I don't know how and who we've contacted historically to look for a candidate for our candidates.
I have a list of school contacts and stuff that historically I have sent the poster and link to the application forms to the schools, but I'm sure there are other ways through Scouts. And if you know any people or parents of kids, I mean, I'll meet random people on the river and just give them my card and tell them about it and say, go apply.
I can probably help with the kids thing.
Oh,
as
great,
well.
Kim. Okay.
Just for those who are unfamiliar, the age range is 14 to 18. So it's not a camp for young kids. It's a camp for kids in those age, and they are looking to have both boys and girls in this camp. They'd like to have it evenly split, if at all possible. There's like 22 slots. So to follow along with their diversity efforts, they would like to see a nice mix of boys and girls.
And as I went for the inaugural 3 years, so I think we're going on about year 15 or something. But and we've always had, 1 to 2 girls, but they would like to, have more. You don't have to know anything about fly fishing, or you can be very experienced, because they do not just, casting and fishing and fly tying, but they do a whole lot of conservation, hydrology. They usually have people in the field come and talk about careers, and they usually do a project. Yeah. And they camp in tents.
Right. And I would say, Kim, if you want to look at what the program offers, go go to CTU and look under their youth education.
Okay.
And it's a pretty good description of what the camps involve, the new camp involves.
Okay.
Our last boy that we sponsored was from the Leadville area.
Okay.
So
I thought it was Fair Play.
Fairplay, you're right. I'm
Fair
sorry.
Play.
Fairplay. Yeah.
Also Westcliff.
And
Yeah,
Westcliff. came.
Westcliff, yeah. So if we can kind of reach back into some of those areas as well, that would be super.
I might add that some of these people that we sent came and presented and gave a little talk at our year-end review meeting. And these were fine kids and they had a wonderful time. They were very entertaining to listen to and they got a lot out of it. It's a great program and we sent wonderful people there in my short history with our chapter. So yeah, we need to find someone to go this year since we haven't had this camp for 2 years in a row now, and it'd be wonderful if we can find a good candidate.
I have one in mind, but they, and that is one of our requirements is that after they go to camp, if they're selected, that they do come present to us. That's why we're giving them the money there. So, okay. Okay. And the last thing I had was, at least Buena Vista Rec has been, they have a lot of good people now. So I don't know if it's something that we want to suggest that we would help run a beginner and or intermediate adult fly casting class through the rec department. We have done that in the past, probably before many of you were involved with the board. And we would just go to the community center and, practice casting. I think that's pretty much all we did. And then we had a barbecue. It was simple there. So,
Gonna say, I know I think that sounds awesome. I know Fly Gals is talking about doing a casting clinic indoors and maybe renting one of the gyms. So we can practice inside somewhere out of the wind.
Right.
And I feel like we've started talking about dates. I don't have those in front of me though. But I like the idea of offering it to others.
Kim, do you think the Fly Gals would be interested in putting that out in the newsletter, inviting any club members to participate?
I think so. And I need to reach back out to Barb Blake because she was talking about like 2 hours, which is a long time to practice casting, I feel like. And so I was going to propose to her doing, an hour of just Fly Gals. And I know some of the ladies prefer that opportunity. And then opening maybe the second hour up to anyone from either from the organization or, looking at how we want to do that. But yeah, I would think that would be an option. So I'll check in with Barb and the ladies before I make promises that I shouldn't be keeping, but I'll find out.
Okay. All right. Do you have someone picked, an instructor who would be offering the casting lessons?
It would be me. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, I've volunteered myself. So that's, yeah.
Or maybe the first hour could be beginners and this for women, and then second hour could be for anybody.
Yeah. I think if we're looking at 2 hours, there's a lot of time that we could make use of. And then as I was sitting there, just because I need more things to do, even incorporating, like maybe there's stations and at one station is a little knot tying station or something. And then you rotate through and casting and, Fly Gals did something similar pre-COVID. That was really awesome. It was a great program. But
do you put hoops out and have prizes for anyone who lands in the hoops or anything like that?
I don't think we're there yet, Rick.
Okay.
But no, I think that
All
those
right.
are some options. It's something fun like that.
We have
Yeah.
fish targets.
Yeah, I think there's all the fun things. So
And maybe to appeal to a broader aspect of people, because I certainly would like to fine tune my casting skills. If there was a good a guide, and it could be yourself, who could also do an advanced casting So
Yeah.
those that that don't have a need for beginning level
Mhm.
casting, but want to be challenged by some new techniques or, so
Yeah.
and so forth.
Well, let me,
we
like I
could-
said, I don't want to make promises for the Fly Gals, but I do think
Sure.
that there's opportunity there to pair that up. And like I said, I know some of the ladies just prefer that they're more comfortable with the ladies only. But I do think there's opportunity for the rest of TU. So
Yeah, that doesn't preclude
no,
doing something else.
no.
What- Didn't Ken Iwamasa offer a casting class one time too?
He did, yes. And I don't know, I know he's still working with the subgroup of the Fly Gals for fly tying. But I could reach out to Ken and see if he's interested. So.
Maybe he would do the advanced one or something, or
Mhm.
you guys can
Yep.
split it. Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Well, and I
Along
can
the
talk
same-
to some of my other guide friends too and see if anyone would be
Perfect.
interested or willing.
That would be great. That'd be great. Along sort of similar lines, I got an email from David Moore.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Mike Verderain. Does anyone know this person? He's willing to do a class through Colorado Mountain College, a bug class, if there's enough interest in CPC. And I had some questions for David, who was going to get back to this doctor. And my questions, of course, were, is this an entire semester or just a couple classes? Where is it going to be? And so on and so forth. So have not heard back. I'm kind of throwing the question out to all you. Would any of you think there'd be any interest for, I know some of us teach that to the kids, but are anyone interested in taking such a class for themselves?
And my guess, Rick, I run into Rob Simpson from CMC a fair amount through school stuff. And I think looking at the catalog for this semester, I think it's a one-night class is what they're planning, I think. But I don't know that they found an instructor for that yet. So I don't know if that makes a difference to folks, full semester versus a one night or one.
I'd do a one night.
Right, I would too. So
okay, I would too. I always need a refresher course,
yeah.
But I wouldn't be interested in a long-term commitment, and I haven't heard back what it entails. But I think he just initially wanted to find out if there's any interest.
Yeah, and I think Daniel from Arc Anglers they're doing a casting class through CMC as well, and I think Daniel's the one that's running that. I can't remember the dates, but
okay,
it's in this catalog somewhere. So.
Okay, great. Anybody else have comments, questions? Have we driven you off yet? I mean, we kind of went fast.
Well, it's
Karen-
pretty late
Karen-
here for me.
Oh yeah.
I'm 2 hours ahead of you, but
Oh, you get out of your comfort level. You're on vacation. You can sleep till 9.
I was busy today. I'm a little tired now.
I have a question about connectivity. Since I'm the host, I'm getting a message that says your internet connection is unstable. So is that affecting you guys? I mean, at that point, I'm seeing a lot of locked screens with no audio. So it's like, is my connection affecting your viewing and listening or no?
Pam, way out here in Florida, my Wi-Fi is not very good, and you've broken up
A couple
twice,
times.
but that is far less than previous meetings, and nothing was garbled like previous meetings. So pretty good from my end. What's everyone else have to say?
Yeah, no, I would say.
Okay, talking with my IT guy about increasing our internet speed, hoping to correct this problem if there is a problem.
I don't think so.
I think I noticed once that you, Pam, were a little bit slower, garbly, or not quite right, but everything else has run really smoothly for me on my end. So.
Okay. Dave,
Okay, thank
anything
you.
from you or anybody else? Anybody know where Garrett is? We missed Garrett.
Where's Jim? You said Jim was traveling?
He comes every other week to BV from Colorado Springs, and he was packing up, getting ready to come here for the week. So he told me ahead of time he might not be here, which is why he sent me his bull moose stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Well, with all that, I will get you all the minutes and feel free to correct them. And what I'll try to do is I'll just highlight the stuff where people are supposed to do something. Okay.
That sounds good. And I make a motion to adjourn our board meeting.
Okay.
All official.
Great. Okay, guys, ladies, thank you so much.
All right,
Stay
good
safe.
night.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
Good
night,
night.
everyone.